Hi, Shannon Waller here, and welcome to the Team Success Podcast. We're talking about extraordinary coach culture, and today we're going to talk about our value number 8, which is respect. And this is a really interesting one. So as strategic coach, we respect everybody, and most of all, we respect other people's goals and decisions. It's really a recognition that strategic coach is for some people, but it's really not for everyone. We do not have the need to be all things to all people. And it's not for everybody who becomes a client, nor is it for everyone who becomes a team member. And we appreciate and we respect that. I really love how Dan Sullivan talks about this time and time again. He says, Shannon, I just know that people do things for their reasons, not ours. And I love that. One of my compliments for Dan is always I consider him to be so gracious. And at the core of this graciousness is a respect for other people. And so when people leave the program, which happens occasionally, we don't make them bad. We don't make them wrong. We don't talk poorly about them, which happens so often. I get to read about it in the media all the time, people being bad-mouthed because they've made a different decision. No, if someone has been a part of the Strategic Coach program, they are forever a part of our community, whether they're a current client or not. And I love that. I just feel like I have 18,000 friends out there. Whether they're a current participant or not doesn't really matter. It's more the fact that we have all shared a similar experience. And if they were attracted to coach, I'm sure we share the same values. We're probably up to the same thing. You're always a part of our strategic coach community. And as you're listening to this, you're also a part of our community. So I include you in this whole culture of respect and appreciation. So to me, this elevates the quality of human relationships. It elevates how we are with one another, both with clients and also with one another as team members. So I really like and appreciate this. And when someone leaves our employment as strategic coach, we're actually often really, really happy for them. We're sad for us if they leave voluntarily, but we're happy for them. So if they've discovered a new way to use their passion, what we call unique ability, then we want to celebrate that. We've had some team members leave and start their own businesses. We love that. And then we actually use their services. We buy their products. We support them because we're excited that they've taken that step into being an entrepreneur. And that's really kind of exciting. Now, hopefully they leave well. There's good ways of leaving and not so good ways of leaving. But as long as they didn't drop too many balls, then we're really excited and happy for what they're accomplishing. To my mind, knowing that, it makes hard decisions easier because if someone is making a decision to go on a different path, but they're still here, there's a conflict. And I think for everyone at Strategic Coach, they really appreciate the fact that we want what's best for them, even if that's no longer with us. And there's just a comfort to that, a safety to that I think a lot of organizations don't actually provide. Now, the other thing Dan talks about, which I really appreciate, is he says, I try to express my appreciation for what they contributed while they were with us. People have their own lives, their own agendas, and their own goals, and you've got to respect that. I feel the same way about team members, especially when they've decided that there's another opportunity that's better for them. So that is really powerful, to be appreciated for your contribution, regardless of whether or not you're still with the company or with the program. That's, again, a very gracious way of operating. And I was just recently talking with our team about what their experience of respect is in the company. And a great colleague of mine, he says, well, I have very, very, very high standards with regard to respect, with regard to women and their safety and what they're up to. And he said, Strategic Coach meets my standard. So I said, good, I'm glad there's alignment there. And the other thing another colleague pointed out is that there are a lot of women that work at Coach. In fact, it's far more than the majority are women. And so we actually have this environment where people are respected for their skills, for their talent, and their gender doesn't matter. And I really like that. We're free of some of the biases that other industries and companies experience. And to my mind, that just makes for such a creative environment. Now, occasionally we will have clients who don't necessarily come from that same mindset. I don't think that they're completely doing it out of intent, but sometimes people are unintentionally not respectful. And one of the things that our team members really, really appreciate is that we will go to bat for them. So if someone's not being respectful for a team member, being inappropriate in any way, we will always address that behavior and back up our team. We'll do it in a way that's respectful to both parties, but that is something that we insist upon. We've called it to people's attention and they were like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. And they didn't know that they were being disrespectful. So it's something we're willing to tackle. Those aren't always the easiest conversations, but they're very necessary ones if you're actually going to live this particular particular value. So why is respect being a core value so important? And I think it comes down to maximizing the environment that you are providing for people. It means that you are freeing people up to do their absolute best. They're in no way, shape, or form ever playing defense. They're not protecting their weaknesses. We want people focusing in on their strengths. They're not thinking that, I don't have this opportunity because of my gender. That's not an issue. We have more women than men. I just think we have the chance to maximize everyone's contribution because they feel so safe, because they feel so respected, because they feel so taken care of. And they know that even if they make a decision that's no longer being with the company, that they'll be appreciated for the contribution that they made while they were here. I remember going to talk with Dan one time with a team member with whom he worked very, very closely. And she'd made a decision to go to law school and to no longer be his project manager. And she was not looking forward to this conversation. So she asked if I would go with her. And I said, yes, of course I will. So we strategized what we wanted to say and what the intent of it was. She was pretty nervous about it. And Dan was a rock star. He was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. I'm happy for your future. I'll miss you. And I really, really appreciate the contribution that you've made while you were here. You put in an enormous amount of work. You've really protected me. You've really supported me and leveraged me to get what I need to get done. And again, thank you for being a part of our team and part of my team. It was such a great experience. I got to see it in action, and he did not know what this meeting was about, by the way. So he couldn't pre-plan his response. This actually had to come from him in that particular moment. But he really demonstrated exactly this quality of respect, and it always does come from the owners. Because, when you're in that situation of delivering what could potentially be bad news, you're not sure how the other person's going to respond. And when someone's bringing you bad news, you have a choice about how you respond. But sometimes you have to make that choice incredibly quickly. That's one of my favorite examples and demonstrations of a core element of respect. And again, I cannot downplay just how critical this person was to working with Dan. It was his key person in terms of managing all of his production projects. But he handled it very gracefully, as did she. Both of them were complete and total class acts, which I really loved. So part of the evidence for respect being part of our culture is how long people stay as strategic coach. I've been talking about people leaving, but a lot of times people leave because they're moving, because their spouse has a new opportunity in another city, or because they want to go and increase their education full time. So that's a lot of why people, if they do leave, why they leave. But so many people stay. We have so many team members who've been with the company over 5 years, over 10 years, over 15 years, over 20 years. And it's kind of incredible. I remember us sitting down, we brought our team to a particular event, and the co-organizer of it brought his team. And we went around and said how long we've been with the company. And I think the minimum was 12 years. And their minimum was 1 week. So it was really interesting. No one had more than 3 years experience on that team. And the person, it was actually, I think with me, or maybe it was Dan, had 20 plus years experience. So it's kind of interesting. There's just a depth that comes with that. And you get to not only attract great people, but keep really solid people because of that innate respect for someone else's contribution. And this ties back to a topic I've talked about in another podcast, which is unique ability. We are so invested in you discovering what your unique ability is. Hopefully that's a fit for strategic coach, but we want to free you up to do what you're best at and most love to do and how you want to make a contribution, in service of what our overall goals are. And that's a very great environment to be in. And we respect unique ability. We respect people's differences. I was thinking about how do I categorize people? A lot in the news right now, there's this, Me Too movement. And I realize I have never experienced anything like that at work, ever. It's just, my colleague Myrna and I were talking, it's just so far removed from our daily experience. I mean, I completely appreciate it. And I have had some experiences outside of work or previous work environments, but never at Strategic Coach. And just the amount of respect I feel myself for what I do, for what I contribute, for my growth opportunities. I'm not expected to be perfect, thank goodness, but it's just a very expansive environment to be in that I think brings out the best in people. So as a takeaway, this is an interesting one to take action on because it's so fundamental, is just to take a look at all of your communications and make sure that that they have that element of respect. Are you respecting other people's decisions and their goals and what they're up to and their unique abilities and their contributions? My filter tends to be about how does someone strive, their Colby profiles, and I embrace all the different ones because I know I need complementary talents around me because I can't do it all by myself. And are you looking at things that way, or are you critical of people who do not get on board with your way of thinking or don't do things exactly the same way that you do? Or, perhaps make a different decision than you would have made. Are you respectful in those circumstances? And I have to say, sometimes it's hard. Somebody's like, oh, you just want what you want. But at the same time, if we can just respect that other people do things for their reasons, not ours, it really sets up a framework to have incredibly powerful, creative, gracious relationships, which again that's the world I want to live in, and I'm sure that you do too. So that would be the first step. And then make sure that everyone in your company also, whether you're a team leader, a team member, or the owner, also shares that same value. And if they do not demonstrate that, take action. We did have someone who was inappropriate years and years and years ago, and he did something very inappropriate with one of our team members, and he was gone instantly. He was walked to the door. There's just zero tolerance for that kind of behavior in our environment. And then we put filters in place so we make sure we don't ever let someone in the door like that again. This was a long time ago. But, it's just so great to know that that's the environment that you come into every single day. Just imagine what's possible if everyone feels that respect and demonstrates that respect and lives that, just what's possible for your company. And then also what's possible in terms of your greater community. If your clientele knows that, they'll know that they'll always be treated with respect no matter what their decisions with you. That again leads to just incredible relationships. People will be your raving fans, whether they're doing business directly with you right now or not. So this is an interesting one to dive into. I hope it's provoked some thought for you. I'd love to hear any feedback that you have, so please let me know at questions@strategiccoach.com. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, here's to your team success. Hi, Shannon here, and thank you very much for listening. If you like what you heard today, please take a moment to rate the Team Success podcast on iTunes. And we'd love it if you'd share the podcast with anyone else who could benefit. If you're interested in learning more about the Strategic Coach program for entrepreneurs, visit us at strategiccoach.com or the Strategic Coach channel on YouTube. For free downloads and more team success strategies, visit teamsuccesshandbook.com.